Do you get frustrated trying to learn your music on the piano one note at a time? There's a faster way to do it. A faster, more efficient way to learn. And I'm going to show you how. Hi, my name is David Lane, and I like to help pianists and composers with skills and techniques that will help you to learn your craft. So what's better than practicing one note at a time? It's something that I call clustering. And if you want to know more about clustering, all about it, then I suggest that you watch this video right here. I've also done several videos for various scales on how to use clustering to learn them, whether it's for the flat key scales, sharp key scales, or the chromatic scale. But this is the first time that I have done a video on how to use the clustering technique to actually learn pieces and to focus on that. So let's review. What is clustering? What I call clustering is something that you might have heard referred to as blocking. However, blocking is usually something that you would limit to things that sound like chords. So if you have 3, 4, or 5 notes within a pattern and you play them all at the same time and it sounds like a block chord, you might call that blocking. But if you're playing something that is more dissonant, it's based off of a scale and you're getting patterns of seconds, we might call that clustering. Just to avoid confusion of which term I'm actually talking about, I use clustering for both, whether I'm talking about blocking in thirds that sound like chords, or whether I'm doing any other kind of intervals at all. Clustering is what I call the idea of taking notes that you would normally play separately, whether it's in a technique or whether it's within a piece, and you are playing them all at the same time. Now let's talk about why that is. Perhaps you've heard of a myth that gets shared a lot in piano lessons, and you'll hear it talked about by teachers and by students, and it's the myth of slow practice. It's not that slow practice is bad, but it's not enough to get you where you want to go. And there are some nuances to what makes effective slow practice and what doesn't, and I'm sure I'm going to talk about that in a video in the future. But the problem with slow practice is the same problem that you have if you're trying to read a book one letter at a time. It makes no sense. You have to first see those groups of letters making words, and you have to see those groups of words making a phrase, and then you put those phrases together and you get a sentence, and now this book makes sense. So what clustering does is it takes these isolated notes that you're trying to learn and it allows you to put them in groups that make sense. Not just sense for your head, but sense for your hands. So we're going to explore a portion of 2 pieces today that you might learn, one that's more intermediate and one that's a little bit more advanced. And we're going to start off with the most famous piece from the Well-Tempered Clavier. This is Prelude number 1, the Prelude in C, from Book 1 of Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier. Now, until you get 3 measures from the end, you have a very specific pattern all the way throughout. You have 2 notes in the left hand, you have 3 notes in the right. You're doing a pattern of 8 notes that are going to repeat, but to cluster it, you just need to find those 2 different notes in the left hand and those 3 notes in the right hand. So the entire piece clustered might look like this, and I would play it like this. By the way, if you are interested in a PDF copy of this piece in the cluster chords that I'm presenting, there is a link in the description that you can click on and you can go get that copy for free. So let's take a passage from a second piece. This one's a little bit more advanced, and it's a section that I was not able to learn well until I learned how to cluster it. And I want to give credit to my college classmate, Rob, who actually pointed this out to me and was able to get me past this, so now I'm going to share it with you. This is from Frédéric Chopin's Etude, Opus 10, number 12, also known as the Revolutionary Etude. It's a section where we have the left hand, of course, which does a lot of work throughout, but in this section, the left hand has this complicated pattern. but it's actually a pattern that's very logical. We're starting off with nothing but G sharp minor triads that are in inversions. But it's not just a G sharp minor triad when you look at it. It's actually a G sharp minor triad in inversions, but there's a half step added below the lowest note of each inversion. So you start off with an F double sharp just below a G sharp minor in root position. And then that whole chord goes to the first inversion, but there's an A sharp below the B on the bottom. And then you go to second inversion, but there's a C double sharp below the D sharp on the bottom. Then the next pattern is D sharp minor doing the same thing, except you're going back down. You're going down in inversions, but there's a half step below each inversion of that chord. The next measure does that with F sharp minor, the next measure does that with C sharp minor. So that was playing everything blocked. Another thing you can do before you play it completely as written is to separate each cluster group, but play each note one at a time within the group. Now, if you play this one note at a time, it's a pretty complex linear pattern because it goes up one measure, it goes down the next. But when you put your hand in the cluster group that includes that half step below each inversion, your hand is ready to do the pattern correctly, whether you're going up or down, and it now makes sense. Plus hands together, still slowly. So for any piece where you're having trouble kind of grasping this one note at a time, find your groups. Could be 2, 3, 4, or 5 notes at a time. First, identify the clusters, and then play them blocked, and then play them separately as written, but separating each cluster group. Now, both of these examples that I shared were more related to chords. I didn't really share anything specifically for scales, but of course you can do that too. If that's something that you would like to see in a future video, please let me know in the comments. Again, my name is David Lane, and I want to thank you so much for watching. I've included another video here that you might find interesting if you found this video helpful. And once again, thank you so much for taking time to watch this, and good luck with your practicing.